Well, good morning and welcome once again to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and this is my twice weekly webcast. We're on to show number 419. It's Wednesday, the 10th of April, and in the stories I'm bringing you today, we have a case of what appears to have been mistaken identity when a driver knocked a teen rider off. The Mirror advised drivers not to use headlights between 6:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. The AA claim two-wheelers are hard to see. Why? Because drivers lack awareness of two-wheelers. The Colorado lane splitting rule is stupidly complicated, according to one online news site. I'll look at two very different safety campaigns from the UK and one from the NZ. We'll have a quick look at some silly season products too, and an Italian e-bike range that sets a fashion milestone, in my opinion, that they probably wouldn't actually want to set. And then finally, today's in-depth feature, we'll be looking at how vision blockers, blind spots and eclipses all work in response to the statement by the AA about objects or cycles and motorcycles being hard to see because drivers lack awareness of them, because I don't believe that for a moment. All right, so that's what's in today's show. Stay with me while we cover all those. Don't forget, if you have a question, a comment, anything you want to ask, fire away. I will try to get back to you during the show if I possibly can. If I can't do it during the show, I will respond afterwards. And Clive has looked in this morning. Jolly good to see you, Clive. Thank you very much indeed. Right, okay, now, before I do anything else, let me just give you the shout out that I promised on Sunday and then couldn't find because I'd put the wrong data in. It's for the people who supported me last week, and we have, there we go, we've got all the names there that are running on screen at the moment. So thank you to all of you. Don't forget, if you're a supporter or a subscriber to my coffee page, this is how you get your name up in lights on the channel. And last week we got support from, let me run the banner so I can actually read it, Sam, who bought a book, Kiss, who also bought 2 of the Easter Madness offers. There's Howard, there was Nick, Paul, who also bought 2 of the Easter Madness offers, Sue, Kelvin, Nigel, let me just get that, Nick, I'm making a right muddle of this again, aren't I? Nigel, there we go, Hallam, Mike. Mike also bought Tarmac Tactics, the ebook on the offer, and we have the usual anonymous offers as well. So thanks to all of you for your support last week. What did you miss last week? Well, it was the Easter Madness offers. And this is what Javier Mañana has to say about my books. He's from Spain, actually, so it's very nice of him to say, Kevin's books are wonderful and way ahead of their time in many ways. Their analytical style and ease of reading makes them true gems, even for someone who, like me, doesn't speak English very well. I think I've every book he's published, and it's one of the best investments I've ever made. I have to say, your English is not that bad. So thank you very much indeed. So if you did miss those, over on the coffee shop, there are still plenty of offers, low cost and even free mini ebooks over there that you can go and enjoy. Now, if you are wondering what the biking weather is going to be for the next few days, I'm afraid the news is still that it's all over the place. Basically, we had record high temperatures earlier this week. Friday and Saturday could see temperatures of highs again around 20 degrees before it drops back to more seasonable sort of low teens temperatures on Sunday. So similarly, there'll be sunshine sometimes, cloudy weather other times, rain and wind, and just about everywhere at some time or the other. So it's a bit of a vague forecast, but basically starting to brighten London today, although it's already clouded over, because there's a band of rain arriving. It's already hit Wales and the west of England, and it's moving towards the east and the north east. Tomorrow looks like another mostly cloudy day. Showers, longer spells of rain pushing into western areas. The east and the north have more chance of some sunny spells. Now Friday, as well as being very mild, as I just said, the south may have some sun, but the north will stay cloudy and unsettled. There's a possibility of very strong winds in northwest Scotland. Saturday remains mild, dry and sunny to the south, but colder in the north, but it will be again blustery, and there'll be the possibility of hill snow up on the far north. Sunday looks like a lot cooler. Blustery showers remain in the west, further dry the further east you go. So a real mixed bag of news for or weather for you in the forecast there. All right, so let's go on with some news. With Kevin's looked in. Morning, Kevin. Good to see you. So the first story is one of these depressing ones. A man's been jailed after he deliberately swerved his van into a 17-year-old who he believed had stolen his son's motorbike. So John Gant drove into the teenager as he was riding an electric motorcycle in Mansfield, and the rider duly crashed and fractured his ankle. What happened next is fairly distressing though, because Gant apparently jumped out and started shouting at him not to run off before he loaded this off-road bike into the back of his van, and then he drove off, and he called police to report the stolen motorcycle, adding that he'd knocked someone off on an e-bike who he believed had been involved. Now the teenager then apparently hid in a front garden, but seems to have been forced by two other men to go to Gant's home. He had to hop there on one leg thanks to his broken ankle, where Gant told him he wouldn't get the bike back as he thought he had stolen it from his son. The victim's father was called. He found his son in tears thanks to the pain from his ankle. Gant was subsequently arrested, and he was charged with causing serious injury by dangerous driving. Now the teen was sadly forced to sell his bike. Nottingham Crown Court heard there was no evidence to suggest the teenager was involved in the theft of the motorcycle belonging to Gant's son. So it seems to be a complete mistaken identity. Gant, 39, he pleaded guilty in relation to the charges which happened in 2022, and he appeared in court on Thursday and was jailed for 21 months, given a 2-year driving ban. And the judge also imposed a 5-year restraining order that prohibits Gant from contacting the victim directly or indirectly. Now, it's more than a week after April Fool's Day, but hard on the heels of the announcement that the government would be consulting on overbright headlights causing dazzle, the Daily Mirror announced that drivers are told not to turn on headlights between 6:30 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. amid safety fears, and that, quote, motorists have been given a stern warning by experts not to turn on the headlights too early in the evening, as the switch to British summertime has sparked worries about road safety. Right, okay, and they continued that according to these same experts, the optimal time to flick on your headlights is reportedly half an hour before when the sun sets, currently around 8 p.m, a vital instruction for motorcyclists following the recent clock change. Now, naturally, I read this story. I suppose I shouldn't have been surprised that no one appears to have said anything of the sort, at least not any experts. It appears to be all concocted by the Mirror's writer. The only statement that made any reference to time was a quote from Callum Butler, who's a spokesperson for ALA Insurance, and he said, quote, as the clocks spring forward, it's crucial for drivers to adjust their driving habits accordingly. Using headlights at the recommended times is a simple yet effective measure to enhance road safety for everyone. So I suppose that's how they extrapolated it into experts and safety fears. Of course, what was immediately pointed out by many of the people reading this story was that there are occasions when drivers are told that they must use headlights during daylight hours, for example in fog spray or heavy rain, when, as the highway code says, visibility is seriously reduced. Now, it's true that the lights on after dark ruling in the highway code is actually slightly confusing. Firstly, you must ensure all side lights and the rear registration plate light, incidentally, are lit between sunset and sunrise. But you don't actually have to turn on your headlights, except on unlit roads at night, and night is defined as the period between half an hour after sunset and half an hour before sunrise. So there's a bit of a disparity there between side lights and headlights, and of course it is permissible to use side lights at night on a street which has street lighting. The other rule is that you must not use any lights in any way which would dazzle or cause discomfort to other road users, including pedestrians, cyclists and horse riders. So a bit of a sort of mixed bag of instructions in the highway code there, but certainly nothing to support what the Mirror are really writing about there. Sue's looked in as well. Good morning, Sue. Now, since it's the 10th anniversary of the AA's Think Bikes campaign, not Think Bike, it's in the singular, the AA have used the plural term with ness on the end to indicate their concern for motorcyclists and cyclists alike. Here's another thought for you to ponder. The AA surveyed 12,000 odd of their members, and they found that 89% agree with the statement, "It's sometimes hard to see cyclists." I always hate those kind of surveys where they give you a phrase like that to agree with or disagree with. And what does sometimes mean? You know, once a year, once a month, once a week, once a day? Who knows? So I'm not surprised that most drivers agreed that it is sometimes hard to see cyclists, because most of us will occasionally find one that's hard to see. But it seems the AA have interpreted this to mean that it demonstrates drivers need to be more aware of road users on two wheels. So the question I immediately asked was, how on earth did you make hard to see equate with drivers lacking awareness? And I'll come back to this piece at the end of the show when I do the in-depth bit. Now, I also happened to notice that the morning after I featured the story that Colorado has opened up a 3-year trial which temporarily legalizes lane splitting in the state, Visordown online also ran the story. The difference was that their headline read, "US state makes legal filtering for motorcycling stupidly complicated." And they continue, "Far from streamlining things for riders in the US, the rules have made it incredibly complicated." Well, I didn't think it was actually that difficult to understand. Now, as I said it on Sunday, the rules are actually, I think, fairly straightforward. It's just whether or not certain criteria are met. Now, the vehicles, you cannot pass, for starters, you cannot pass into a lane where there is traffic coming the other way. So if you want to pass vehicles, those in the lane that you are using to pass and those in adjacent lanes must be stopped. And if they start moving, then the rider must stop passing those vehicles. So basically you stop lane splitting. The lane must be wide enough to allow safe passing, and the rider must pass at a maximum speed of 15 miles per hour. And the final sort of catch-all there was prudent operation of the motorcycle whilst overtaking or passing. So is that really that tricky? I don't think it is. It's also the silly season for bike products. I opened some emails and this was the first thing I saw. Just to give you a quick zoom in on that one. It's the Everyday Essentials Massive Savings from M&P. That's their regular update. Now, there's a lot of potentially useful stuff on it. Battery charger, oil for the engine, and neck tubes are three of the things that a lot of people would actually be interested in. But it also informed me that the tyre warmers are actually an essential item, which is a new one on me. Who knew that was the case? The second advert I got was for something called a Global Eagle X6 Plus motorcycle dash camera, where I learned from reading the blurb that went with it that both camera lenses are not just IP67 waterproof, but they are, quote, machined from aluminium. Now, I'm pretty sure that the lenses used in the camera are actually more conventionally manufactured from glass, so it's probably the lens mount that's metal. So is that case copywriting, or does it intend to make what is actually a £270 camera sound a bit more unique than something you can buy on eBay for a fraction of the price. I do know it is possible to make metal coatings so thin they're comparable, but I don't think that means they can make a lens out of aluminium, not just yet anyway. And next, my newsfeed picked up a story about a bespoke motorcycle made from titanium body parts. Now, you guessed resistance was futile, and I did click. I couldn't resist. And this is what I actually saw. Now, it looks pretty much like a standard Royal Enfield twin to me, with a rather nasty brown seat and twist grips. So what was the piece all about? It turned out to be a sort of some puff self-advertising from an agency, FCB London. And this is what they had to say. Experienced bikers often feel they've seen it all and know the risks of motorcycling, so to reduce the number of casualties on England's roads, national highways has had to become a part of their world. Making them care about safety is a challenge, especially coming from a government organisation. But with collisions involving motorcycles averaging one a day in 2022, it was an issue that needed to be addressed. So it's all about engagement with bikers then. And the piece continued to capture the imagination of bikers and sidestep riders' cynicism. FCB London developed the idea of a bespoke and fully functional motorcycle incorporating medical-grade titanium body parts that are normally used to piece together riders after an accident. Manufactured by Old Empire, the bike appeals to bikers' love of beautiful, unique motorcycle design and triggers a live conversation about the chromium-plated parts that headline the bike. Hang on, chromium plated? I thought they were supposed to be titanium. Anyway, as far as I can see, the parts are the brake lever, the handlebar brace, the headlight brackets, and the gear shift and the stand. There is actually a rather beautifully shot video that goes with it, and I'm just going to hopefully run you that. Here we go, this should be it. Well, feel free to discuss that video and tell me what you think about it. You can watch it again online if you want to, and I'll just give you the link to it. You might want to show somebody else. Here it comes. The senior creative team at FCB London, they said it's not every day you get an opportunity to create a custom motorbike for a government client, or any brand really. Well, I don't actually think that's quite what they did. They took a existing motorcycle there and stuck a few parts on. Inventive perhaps, but a long way short of a full motorcycle. Right, okay, so continuing then with the news, and another safety campaign. This time it's over in New Zealand. The NZ Transport Agency, Waka Kotahi, they've launched their latest motorcycle safety campaign aimed at motivating even, they say, the most seasoned bikers to mitigate the risks on every ride. Now, this campaign features experienced riders from across the country talking openly about their own crashes and the near catastrophic results and the lessons that they lived to tell. Now, each testimonial was said to serve as a, quote, poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the profound impact of split-second decisions on the road. Now, just as in the UK, the US and Australia, riders of powered two-wheelers are overrepresented in deaths and serious injuries on New Zealand roads too. And they say over there the risk of death or serious injury is 21 times higher than a driver in a car travelling over the same distance. And that's a not dissimilar figure to the sort of the numbers we get quoted at us by UK police and road safety bodies. The NZTA, they say there's a lesson in every crash. This campaign is about getting riders to share those often painful lessons to stop others from learning the same way. The behavioural outtakes of the campaign, that's a great expression, isn't it? Behavioural outtakes. They're said to be riding with the right mindset, riding sober, rested, in the right gear and to the conditions, as well as doing rider training. The aim is to create a stronger safety culture based around these shared experiences. Phil Sherring, marketing manager at NZTA, he said, "We believe in the power of authentic stories to connect with people and encourage change. By sharing the hard-won wisdom of these riders, we hope to instill a deeper understanding of what can happen. More importantly, we hope the campaign motivates riders to take the recommended safety precautions and urge others to do the same." So let's have a look at another video. This one is called Ride Your Own Ride.
We were headed out for the weekend. It was a big party, going way too fast in a group. It started overtaking other riders. Took a look behind me, pulled out, another bike came behind me and just 4 broken limbs, the hands, the legs. Was lucky to live. It happened because I was riding for other people and I was riding like a kid, man. And it's pretty important to ride your own ride, be yourself.
Okay, so make of that what you will. I'd be interested in comments on that one, actually. I sometimes find those adverts may be a bit more effective than the usual ones telling you what to do. Anyway, links to this one if you want to show it to other people. It is just going up on your screen. Now, I do wonder at the launch date. It came out last Saturday, April 6th, because that's pretty late in the autumn, of course, down in the southern hemisphere. And I can't help but think that if the idea is to campaign to reach motorcyclists across multiple channels with the right message at the right time, a better date would have actually been in the southern hemisphere spring. Right, after the serious news story, it's back to the silly season. I thought I would check out a report on a new Italian electric motorcycle manufacturer. Now, 4 years after becoming the first manufacturer to debut an electric bike for the Dakar Rally, Tacita has just revealed a 5-bike lineup. I'll let you feast your eyes on 4 of them, and I'm just going to keep quiet here and let you make up your own mind what you think about them. So this is the Tacita T-Race Enduro. Just zoom in on that a little more for you. There you are. Okay, that's the first one. And the second one, this is the Classic Cruiser. And the third one, this is the Discanto, which is from their race off-road race line. I think this is actually the bike that was entered for the Dakar. And then finally, we'll have the Moto Rally, which appears to be a road legal bike. At least it has lights at the front. Presumably it has a rear light too. Well, what can you say about those, really? I mean, for Italian designers, they've certainly set a fashion milestone with these. It's hard to choose which of them is actually the most gopingly ugly, but I think it is this last one. Since I can't imagine anybody who doesn't actually have their hair cut with a pudding basin and a bread knife actually looking at any of these bikes seriously, I won't even bother to give you any further information about them. Tacita is the name if you really want to go and look them up. Okay, and so on to the final part of today's show, where I take a look at an in-depth topic. Now, I said I'd come back to the AA's statement that 89% of their members agreed with that survey question. It's sometimes hard to see cyclists. Now, as I mentioned, I wouldn't disagree if sometimes means anything from occasionally to regularly. But what I do argue with is the conclusion that they drew, that hard to see somehow got equated with drivers lacking awareness. Where did it come from? The answer turned out to be fairly simple. It was a statement by Edmund King, director of the AA. He said, the survey shows that 89% of drivers agreed it's hard to see cyclists, but it shouldn't be if they look in the right places. So let me show sort of places that somebody might be looking for a cyclist. There we are. If we focus, if we zoom in first of all on the left-hand photo there, you can see there's a cyclist approaching a van. Fairly obvious, that one, you'd think, isn't it? Let's look at the matching picture, which is taken from the perspective of the, I've got to get that picture across there it is, from the perspective of the driver of the van. Now obviously this is a vehicle where they're driving on the wrong side of the road, because I pinched this picture from a US crash reconstruction expert. If you want to go and have a look at what he says about blind spots, I've got another link to go up for you. There it goes. So okay, let's just zoom out again from that one, just center it. So you can see two different perspectives of the same view. It's not quite as obvious as it looks, is it? And the interesting thing is that the blog actually uses 3 different scenarios. And again, I'll try and zoom in on them so that you can see what you're looking at. There's the top one. This one time it's a pedestrian standing in front of the van. Now, how far away are they from the van? 2 meters. Yet they are completely invisible from inside the van at the driver's seating position. The cyclist we've just seen, the cyclist is probably a dozen meters or so away, but still invisible. And then finally, here is a car, not a small car either, but again, I probably guess it's about 50 meters away. It's completely hidden from the sight of the driver by the A pillar. So that is the impact of the A pillar on vehicles. Now, oddly enough, I was having this conversation with a road safety expert just recently, who said if you move your head, you can see around the blind spot created by the A pillar. Well, you can, with one proviso, and that is that the object you're searching for, remember you haven't actually seen it yet, must actually be in the area where your head movement can actually reveal it. For example, if the object is stationary, such as the cycles and the pedestrians and car we saw hidden by this A pillar, if it hasn't moved, and the car isn't moving either, then if you move your head, the angles will change and the movement will open up what's in that blind spot, and you should be able to see it without too much trouble. But what if the angles between the car and the hidden object change too? Now, if you change your viewing angle by moving your head, if the object itself moves along the right path, or perhaps more accurately I should say the wrong path, and it's possible that it's moved on a course which still manages to conceal it from the driver's eyes, even though we are now looking what we think into the blind spot caused by the A pillar. We still won't see it. And the same, of course, applies if both vehicles are moving. It's possible to move your head and still have an object concealed by the blind spot. Even if the object you're looking at is stationary, if you happen to move the vehicle and move your head at the same time, they can still all line up. Now, I actually had a fairly graphic illustration of how this could happen a few months back. I very nearly had a fast food delivery rider often over the bonnet of the car. We actually missed each other by inches, so this was a bit of a shock. So what I did was I sat down and tried to reconstruct what had happened when I returned home a few minutes later. So I'm going to show you a diagram which I've created to try to give you an idea of what actually happened. So let's zoom in on that for you. Now, I was in the blue car, which was sat here at the junction initially. I'd stopped looking for an opportunity to emerge into the traffic. It's a fairly busy road. So the the manoeuvre is complicated by a number of factors. Now, away to the right, the road actually rises over a railway bridge, and in fact the pedestrian crossing there is the top of the bridge, and then it turns away slightly to the left, so it's not quite as straight as the diagram here implies, and that makes the view rather tricky to see what's coming up the road towards the pedestrian crossing. Now, it's made worse because there is actually a bike park outside the tube station. This is the tube station here, and there's a bike park just here along some metal railings which stop people crossing the road between the corner and the pedestrian crossing. And just to make it even more difficult to see, the local council have put some flower baskets on top of the railing, so it's very pretty, but it completely restricts your view around the corner. Okay, so what's over here on the other side of the road? Well, it's actually almost as difficult to see because there are shops along this stretch of road here, and there is a delivery bay here which regularly has vans parked in it, and the road actually bends again slightly around to the left as you go that way. So basically the side road emerges onto in the middle of a bend, which isn't the easiest place to look at the best of times. Now, the tube station, which is here, means that you have lots of pedestrians crossing the road at the pedestrian crossing, but also back and forth across the road here. Some take a shortcut across the road here because there's a bus stop, and others of course cross the road here, and there is a traffic island in the middle of the road actually. Now, I worked out what probably happened when I got home. As I say, the first thing to say is that there is actually a bus stop put in here, right where you're trying to pull out into the road. So that's where the buses stop. It's a bit wider than it looks in the diagram, so there is actually space to turn out pretty much alongside the bus on the correct side of the road. Now, my guess is that what happened is that as the bus slowed to a stop, I'd seen already there was no traffic approaching from my right, because there were people crossing the pedestrian crossing. So I checked left, but at this point the bike was probably hidden behind the slowing bus. Now, as the bus came to a halt, there was still no traffic approaching from my right. The pedestrian crossing was still busy. I made a second check just before I started to move forward, and I didn't see the bike at this point. So my guess at this point is that the rider had moved out from behind the bus, but was now in the blind spot behind the left-hand side A pillar. My third check to the left was made when I was actually rolling, and in pretty much the position that I have put the car here. By that point, I suspect the bike had moved from where I've shown it here to about this position here, and again, once more, it was in the left-hand A pillar blind spot. Once again, I didn't see the bike. So what happened? Well, it certainly wasn't that the bike was out of mind. I'm well aware of the risks from motorcyclists along this piece of road. As I said, because the road bends left, there is a real problem with bikes that keep far too close to the left-hand side that you can't see them because of that railing. And I wasn't in a hurry. I was taking my time. I wasn't in a rush. I wasn't going anywhere that needed to be yesterday. I wasn't careless. I took at least 3 looks to the left. I don't think that was indicating I was lacking attention, that I was distracted, or even forgetting to look in the right place. I certainly did what I normally do, which is move my head around to try to see what's in the blind spot. You could argue, of course, I didn't look properly since I didn't see the bike, but I'd say that having looked 3 times, I'd done pretty much anything that any prudent driver could be expected to do. The fact really is it was a simple dynamics of the event that made my 3 checks fail to spot the motorcycle until it was actually right in front of the car. That's not what I wanted. What have I done with it? Oh, all right, okay. I've lost that picture. Sometimes I was going to use a photograph of the recent eclipse to indicate that, just like the sun and the moon do occasionally, objects sometimes simply line up, and then whatever's behind the vision blocker, we cannot see it. And so it does mean that it's sometimes true that the bike did appear from nowhere. So what does that mean for the broader picture? Now, you may remember that last year I was looking at where collisions in the UK actually occur between cars and motorcycles, and I was very surprised to discover from the crash maps that there are significant clusters at roundabouts. Now, I'd never really considered them a particular problem before, because I've never heard of them being flagged up as a specific risk area, but the dynamic nature of the movement of the car turning onto a roundabout and the motorcycle coming on to the roundabout itself from a different angle, it could certainly result in some blind spot issues, this time with the right hand A pillar on the car, and it could be that the blind spot issue accounts for at least some of these collisions, and I think it is something that people should look into. Now, there have been various solutions to this issue. Renault, some years ago, what they used were two pieces of tubular steel that was split with a mirror, a glass piece between them to shrink the size of the A pillar. There's a more high-tech one that's certainly around in the research stage, where you have blind spot cameras basically on the outside of the car, and you actually have a screen embedded on the A pillar. If you can have whacking great infotainment screens in the middle of the car, I don't think that it's difficult to suggest that you could have a little camera relaying a picture which is then projected onto the inside of your A pillar to tell you what you're missing. Frankly, I think that is a solution that's probably very worthwhile pursuing. But of course, the thing I always say is that collisions, by their very nature, are two to tangle instance. It might have been me setting the potential collision up in this case, but the rider could certainly have done something to stay out of trouble to reduce the threat to them. Now, the thing is that my car would actually have been visible to the motorcyclist a lot earlier than the motorcycle was visible to me. From the moment the rider popped out from behind the bus, quite possibly even earlier when he was further back down the road, he would likely have seen my car. As I pulled out, though, whereas I was looking around in several different directions, checking for cyclists, pedestrians, what the bus was doing, and whether there was traffic coming from either direction, all he had to do was look in front of him and see my car. So he had by far the simpler task to spot my bike, and that's true of most Smidsy collisions. Did he see me? Well, he did, because he swerved to avoid the collision. It was actually quite a good swerve, which argues he's some prior practice of that manoeuvre, but it didn't help that he didn't sound his horn. If he'd done that early, I would have known that there was something I hadn't seen. Or better still even, why didn't he just simply ease off and let me complete the manoeuvre rather than try to compete for space in the middle of the junction? Anyway, whatever. Let's stop automatically blaming drivers for Smidsies. But I did come up with a rhyming reminder for you. It's, I think, quite a good one anyway. A pillars, biker killers. So you can put that one into your memory banks, and whether you're driving a car or whether you are on two wheels, remember that the A pillars do create a significant hazard around as you drive. So be alert to what might be hidden when you're driving a car, but also if you are on two wheels, be alert to what you might not be seeing, or what other drivers might not be seeing, and whether you are hidden. If you can't see a driver's eyes because they are behind the A pillar, then remember, they can't see you. Right, okay, can we persuade anybody to use my new rhyming reminder? With a bit of luck. Right, that is pretty much it for today. Thank you very much indeed again for looking in. If you have enjoyed the show, do the usual things like share and follow. Don't forget to tell people about Elevenses. Share the link to your riding buddies. Help me grow the channel. And please take a moment, of course, if you are on YouTube, to check out my other videos, including 60-second safety, 60-second science, bite-sized information in a quick to watch, easy to digest fashion. Now that is it for today. So I'm just going to finish off by reminding you that if you are out there on your bike today, enjoy the ride while it's dry anyway, but stay shiny side up. I'm Kevin Williams. This has been Elevenses. Thank you for watching.